So UFC 302 is right around the corner, and today we are going to do some main event prediction and see who will come out as the favorite on each fights. At the very first fight of the night, we will have Randy Brown going against Dos Santos. So Randy Brown has just come off his last fight off a first round knockout against Muslim Selikov, and Dos Santos has come out of his last fight in a draw, but a very impressive draw. And I'm going to have to go with Randy Brown here, and the reason of that is just because Randy Brown has shown that he has excellent striking other than the time that he got knocked out by Jack Della Maddalena. But Jack is a very good striker, and we can see that Jack right now is probably a top 4 in the welterweight division. And looking at Dos Santos' last fight, although it was a very good fight, but I think that has more to do with Rinat showing that it was an off day, and also showing that Rinat's striking is not on the level of a welterweight contender striking. And when you look at Randy Brown's striking is very crisp. So I'm gonna have to go with a second round knockout on this one. On to the next fight, we have the most exciting heavyweight fighter in the heavyweight division's history, Jailton Almeida, going up against Alexander Romanov. And the problem with Romanov is he's very inconsistent with his mentality of fighting and also just his physiques. We have like one fight where he shows up extremely overweight, and we have the other fight where he shows up in a really good physiques. But honestly, I don't see that matters too much, although two of them are both really good wrestlers and grapplers. I just think Jailton Almeida is a level above Romanov when it comes to wrestling and also grappling. Maybe not striking, but we have to see how much Jailton improved on his striking. But I'm gonna go with a first round submission by Jailton Almeida. I just think there's levels to this, and Jailton only seems to have troubles with the top contenders of the heavyweight, and Romanov seems to be 1 foot out of the door. And although he used to be a very exciting fighter, it's kind of sad to see that he's at the end of his career. Kevin Holland versus Michał Oleksiejczuk. This fight is very random because I just don't see why Kevin Holland will move back to middleweight when he's doing so much better at welterweight. Maybe it's because he just really wanted to fight, I guess. But when you look at him in the welterweight, he has a lot more submissions and has a lot more power to his, and also his length helps him a lot at welterweight. But moving to middleweight, he's kind of like a guy that just loses one and win one, and you're not very sure every time he fights whether he is going to win or not. His win aren't as decisive as it is in the welterweight. Sure, Kevin Holland lost to Michael Venom Page and Stephen Thompson, but you could also argue that he could have beat Stephen Thompson if he implemented grappling, and Michael Venom Page is just a very good fighter, so there's actually no shame to losing to Michael Venom Page. So I'm gonna go with Kevin Holland on this one. I just think he has more experience, and Oleksiejczuk I just don't know if he fully recovered from that Pereira knockout. Well, he didn't really get knocked out by Pereira, but all Michel Pereira's fight in his last 2 fights are pretty much the same, where he almost knocks you out, but while you're defending for the punches, he just goes for the submission. But he still suffered a lot of damage, and the fight was ended really quick in the first round. So I'm gonna have to go with Kevin Holland on a either decision or a submission here. On to the co-main event, we have Sean Strickland going against Paulo Costa. This is probably going to be one of the best fights of the card, despite people saying, oh, Sean Strickland is boring, he has no finishes. I feel like a lot of that has to do with recency bias, because if you look at before that, he finished Abu Magomedov, and then also he knocked down Izzy. Although his fight style, I get it, is kind of like a poke and jab type of fight style, but Sean Strickland's always going to bring entertainment, as well as Paulo Costa. I'm pretty sure the past like 3 Paulo Costa fight has all been performance or fight of the night, although like you might argue like he lost them, but he still brings some pretty exciting fights. Looking at their last 4 fight, Sean Strickland has fought Nasruddin Imavov, Abuz Magomedov, and Israel Adesanya, where he came off all like win, and then he lost to Dricus du Plessis in a very close split decision. And then you look at Paulo Costa, where he has a lot of canceled fights. His last 5 fights are Yoel Romero, that's all the way at 2019, a loss to Israel Adesanya, 2 canceled bout in between, lost to Marvin Vettori, beat Luke Rockhold, and then lost to Robert Whittaker on a unanimous decision. So out of these two, Sean Strickland is definitely the more active ones, and he does have a 4-inch reach advantage. I'm gonna have to go with Sean Strickland here. The problem with Sean Strickland is that he doesn't do very well against power punchers, as we can see from the Dricus du Plessis and Jared Cannonier. It's not that he's very bad against them, it's kind of just they're trading strikes and it goes to a decision. The judges are always going to favor damage over striking. You can argue both fights that Sean Strickland won. But what is the similarity between Sean Strickland's last 3 losses? You look at Dricus du Plessis, Jared Cannonier, and Alex Pereira. These 3 are all power punchers. And Sean Strickland's Philly shell defense seems to be really effective against skill strikers. But when the strikers have a lot of powers in them, he seems to be losing every trade just because he does still get hit, but it's just his punches are a lot weaker compared to the power punchers. And I know that a lot of you guys are going to say Paulo Costa is a power puncher, but I feel like his power has really been declined for the past couple of years. And Paulo Costa was never really like a one-shot fighter. He's always like he'll melt you down and then get like a technical knockout out of it. And people might argue that Paulo almost knocked out Robert Whittaker in the last fight, but honestly, if anyone in the middleweight throws and landed a spinning back kick flush on Whittaker's head, Whittaker's gonna get wobbled too. And also, we're not gonna act like Paulo Costa didn't have like 2 more rounds to finish Whittaker. So he had plenty of time to finish Whittaker. I agree Whittaker got saved by the bell there, although the win was pretty decisive on Whittaker. Let's be honest, Whittaker did get saved by the bell. But still, like, Paulo Costa just seems like he's lacking power for a guy that's that muscular. With that being said, it doesn't mean that Sean Strickland is a fully lock. I do think this is one of the closest fight off this card. Both are very good and very skilled fighters, but I think throughout, especially a 5-round fight, it'll go more towards Sean Strickland. The 5-round kind of favors Sean Strickland, but if it's a 3-round fight, it will probably be a lot closer than it is. So I'm gonna put Sean Strickland by decision at the end of the round. On to the main event, we have Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. Now, this is probably gonna be one of the best fight of the year. I don't care if people say Dustin Poirier does not deserve it. These two are clearly one of the best lightweights of all time. And I do think Islam is better than Khabib skill-wise, maybe not legacy-wise, but Islam is literally Khabib with a A-tier striking. Like, he is so good. He's so good! I fucking hate it! Oh my god, why is he so good? Sorry guys, I'm a Charles Oliveira fan. Now, we look at their last 4 fight. Dustin Poirier lost to Charles Oliveira, beat Michael Chandler, lost to Justin Gaethje, and beat BSD. Whereas you look at Islam, his last 4 fight, beat Bobby Green, beat Charles Oliveira, that's not real, it was CGI, beat Volkanovski, and beat Volkanovski again on a short notice. But I do think Dustin has a higher chance of beating Islam than Charles Oliveira does. And the reason with that is Dustin just has a mentality of ground is just lava for him. Meanwhile, you look at Charles Oliveira. Oliveira has one of the bigger problems against these grapplers where he is too comfortable with just lying on his back. But if you look at that in a jiu-jitsu format, that's totally fine. Like, you could probably even win a fight off that. But we're talking about MMA here, and when you lie on the back, you're essentially losing those fights. We look at Charles Oliveira against Beneil Dariush. He was technically beating Dariush while he was on his back, but the stats doesn't look that way. The stats showed that Beneil Dariush was actually winning the fight 20 significant strike to 0 against Charles Oliveira. But when you're actually watching the live fight, you could actually tell that Charles is low-key winning on the ground. And then when it comes to striking wise, I do think Dustin is a better striker than Oliveira. But if you look at recent Oliveira fights, you could just say Oliveira is a pretty good striker. Maybe Oliveira does have the heaviest hand in the UFC, but he doesn't utilize striking as well as Dustin does. Oliveira's striking kind of comes when the other guy are willing to strike with him, but when the other guy are pressuring him and just trying to take him down, Oliveira's striking would actually not really be that efficient compared to like a Justin Gaethje striking, or when it comes to like a Dustin Poirier striking. So the chances of Dustin Poirier knocking Islam out will be the only chance of him winning this fight, or I could see him knock Islam really hurt in the first round and he wins it off a decision by just defending takedown. But that really depends on how Islam looks, because Islam said that he probably wants to strike with Dustin, and if Dustin tries that guillotine, he's gonna submit him. So Islam's ground game is definitely a lot better than BSD, and we've seen from the past that a lot of the other fighters whose ground game isn't as skilled as Islam can just ragdoll Dustin. If you look at the Chandler fight, you look at the Oliveira fight, it just kind of feels like Dustin's takedown defense isn't as good as someone like Justin Gaethje or even Michael Chandler. But if you think about it, this fight, he prepared it on a full fight camp, and he knows that Islam knows his biggest weakness is his takedown defense. So we're gonna have to see what Dustin's gonna do and what he's gonna implement to adjust his takedown defense. As well as Dustin knowing that this is his last title fight, he's probably gonna retire after this if he like loses. So that's gonna be pretty sad for him. We don't really want to see another legend just leave the game after being in the game for so long. But that being said, it doesn't mean that Dustin Poirier is just completely going to lose this fight. There is a chance where he is going to win, and there is weakness within Islam's striking. When you look at Islam's striking, he doesn't really do a lot of blitz. He's kind of like a pinpoint kickboxer, but the only time he will try to do a blitz is when he throws a takedown. And if he's just standing still with Dustin, I think Dustin do have the better striking advantage over Islam. And one of the bigger problem with Islam is that he does not check that right hook very well because of how aggressive he throws his hand and leaves a lot of opening. So I do see Dustin could find that opening and potentially hurt him. But with that being said, I am going to have to go with Islam Makhachev with this one, just because Islam is at the prime, at the peak of his like career right now, and also that he's just looking undefeated. It just doesn't really look like anyone in that lightweight division could beat him. Maybe Arman, but it just feels like Islam right now, compared to Arman's last fight against Charles Oliveira, there is still a pretty big gap between skill. So it really depends on how Arman prepare and how Arman improves throughout the couple of years. We know that Arman is still young, and I feel like Arman do have the best chance of beating him out of all the lightweights. And there is that curse of fighters over 35-year-old in lightweight or below, like just doesn't win a title fight because of how much they're draining their body to make that weight. With heavier weight class, they seem to have more success in the later of their career because of the lack of weight cut that they need to do. But in these lighter weight classes, especially a 155 weight class, and Dustin is a big man, like I just don't see how Dustin can survive 5 rounds of wrestling with Islam. So I'm gonna have to go with Islam by submission or knockout in 3rd round. Maybe he catches him with a kick to the head because Dustin was trying too hard to defend takedown, or he just takes him down and finds the neck. We've seen it in the past where Dustin has a lot of trouble in hiding his neck, and a lot of elite grapplers have a very easy chance to just find Dustin's neck and submit him. With that being said, this is the end of the breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is actually the first time I make a breakdown, a full breakdown, a 15-minute breakdown like this. So please let me know how you guys feel in the comment. Let me know who you guys think is going to win, or if I got any predictions wrong. Thank you so much.